judgments that might already have a lien applied to the property. But to answer your question, credit score is not an issue, and oftentimes what we may perceive to be quote unquote bad credit is still perfectly fine with this particular product. And it doesn't bump the interest rate either. Sometimes loan products with lower credit score borrowers may have a higher interest rate. With the reverse mortgage, that's not the case. So they're looking at your age and the value of the property to make the underwriting decision. So great question. A few of the other questions that we get regarding this loan product, I'm just going to go through them, is what happens when I die? And that's a big concern for a lot of people. A lot of people, especially those who are planning to leave their real estate to their children or through the estate to other heirs. To answer your question, it's just as if you were to pass away with a normal mortgage on your house. You know, it's a lien on your property that has to be satisfied either by the estate selling, refinancing, or paying off that lien. But it's nothing more than that. It's a mortgage lien on your property that has to be satisfied at your death by the estate. So typically you're given 12 months, or the estate, I guess, is given 12 months to satisfy that lien. So there's usually ample time for the property to go through whatever process it needs to, probate or whatever the case is with the estate being settled. But your heirs are entitled to the property and to the equity. They, just as if it was a normal mortgage, are going to need to either pay that mortgage off, refinance it into one of their names, or just sell it, and then the estate will benefit from the equity. Another question that we get often, and I addressed it a little bit there, is does the bank own my house? Does the bank own my property? The answer to that question is also no. It's simply a lien placed on your property, just like a normal first or second mortgage or equity line that needs to be satisfied at a later date, either via sale or refinance. So the bank does not own your property. You remain the owner of the property. Nothing changes on the title. It's just like any other mortgage. They have a lien position against the title, but they do not own your property. Another question that came up over the week was, what happens if the property value goes down and I owe more than the property is worth when I pass? So that's an interesting question, and one we haven't thought of recently because we've been in such an upward swing in appreciation. But most of us are old enough to remember the crash that we had in real estate in the 2000. 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever that period is. I still try to push that out of my mind. But yes, it certainly can happen for more than just that reason. And the answer to that question is nothing. If you owe more than the property is worth when you die and the property transfers to your estate, they simply hand the keys back to the bank. They're not responsible to pay that deficit, if you will. So let's use very round numbers. Let's say you have a $400,000 house and you took a reverse mortgage for, I don't know, let's say $250,000. And you at the point of inception, you have $150,000 in equity. So let's say over the course of the remainder of your life, that balance grew in the reverse mortgage, and you now owe $300,000. But the house declined in value, so now it's only worth $275,000. So you owe $300,000. The house is no longer worth $400,000. It's worth $275,000. That $25,000 deficit, your estate nor are your heirs responsible for that. They can hand the keys back to the bank, and the bank doesn't even take the loss. This reverse mortgage product is insured by the FHA, so the bank is made whole. And part of the cost of a reverse mortgage is that mortgage insurance premium that you, as the borrower, pay in your closing costs. So the bank is insured by the FHA. Sorry about that. So they don't incur the loss, and you've paid for that policy, so your heirs don't incur the loss. Everybody's protected. The property sells at whatever the fair market value is, and there's no coming back on your estate or your heirs. Even if you have substantial assets in other positions, it's not, you could have $1 million portfolio that you leave to the estate. They don't have to liquidate any of that, any of those monies to to satisfy that deficit. So that's another question we get a lot of. And just to use that example that we talked about, the $400,000 house with the, $275,000 reverse mortgage, you get those funds. You can take a lump sum at closing and then receive the balance of it in the form of a credit line over the life of the loan that you can tap as necessary after the first year. They don't give it to you all at once. You're able to take one draw in the first year, and then from there at the 13th month moving forward, you can tap additional equity. But where I'm going with this is that balance that remains in the form of a credit line also grows. It accrues interest. So whatever interest rate the lender is charging you for the mortgage, they're also paying you with a slight premium. Actually, they're paying you in the form of interest on that balance that you haven't used yet. So there's a lot of moving parts with this loan, and it's certainly worth a conversation. And it's not right for everybody, but the people that it's right for, it's an amazing tool. It's an amazing opportunity. So the bank doesn't own your house. You own your house. It still transfers to your estate just as if it had a normal mortgage on it, and your estate is able to liquidate the asset and satisfy the mortgage, or refinance it and keep it in one of the heirs' names. And you don't owe any of the deficit balance if it's worth less than you owe on it when you finally pass. So one other really cool thing about the product is that if one of the spouses is younger than 62, we can still make this work, and they can stay in the property until they pass. They can remain in the home for the rest of their lives. Interesting loan product. Again, not right for everybody, but also a wonderful way to tap some of the equity that you have, and you've never had more equity than you have right now. Tap that equity, forego a mortgage payment, and use that to offset some of this inflationary expenses and costs that we're seeing. So I hear the music. We will be back after this break. Again, 561-291-8569 is the Anytime hotline. Thanks.
Here's another 5-star review.
We started our loan with a different company. They said we were approved, but at the last minute they told us there was a problem. I still don't know what went wrong, but thankfully our real estate agent told us about Mark. I was pretty stressed, but it's the perfect house, so we gave Mark a shot. He got it done. I'm not sure what was different, but I don't really care. We even got a better interest rate and with less money out of pocket than the first guy quoted us. It was a great surprise. Yes, I'm happy to recommend Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel here, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me talk about the valuation tool that we use in our lending practice almost daily. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate than one of those online estimates. And we're happy to run one of those reports for you at no charge. Just visit freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. Give us a little information about the property, and we'll be happy to send you your report. That's freevaluereport.org.
It's not every day that you need an appraisal, whether it's for a divorce settlement, estate planning, or maybe you're appealing a tax assessment, or you just want to make sure you have adequate coverage in your property insurance. When you need a certified appraisal, turn to my friends at soflappraisal.com. That's soflappraisal.com. Peter and his team have been appraising properties here in South Florida for decades. soflappraisal.com. And tell them you heard this on the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Are you a rock star real estate agent? I mean, truly one of the best? If you are, let's talk. This is Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show, and we are currently expanding our network of rock star referral partners. If you think you have what it takes, we'd love to connect. Just visit Mr.Mortgage. That's www.mr.mortgage. There's no .com. Just type in Mr.Mortgage, hit the Contact Us button, and let's talk.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now, 561-291-8569.
All right, so we are back. Again, my name is Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show, and very, very happy to be with you on this beautiful Saturday. I hope you have some amazing plans today. But thank you for spending some of your day with us. Dom, my producer, and I are excited to have you. And we've got some questions rolling in, so that's exciting. 561-291-8569, 291-8569. That's the Anytime hotline. And by Anytime hotline, I mean it rings here while we're in the studio so we can get your questions on the air. But also during the week, that line forwards to my office. So if you need me or have questions that you want either addressed immediately or on the air, just use that number 291-8569. That is the show's Anytime hotline, or visit mr.mortgage on the web. So, I'm not going to spend a lot, any more time rather, on the reverse mortgages. They're definitely an animal of their own, and we are happy to answer any questions that you have and spend all the time that you need to get your concerns and questions addressed. So happy to spend some time with you. Hit that hotline, 561-291-8569. But let's keep this train rolling. I know we've got another question. I see Dom is giving me the thumbs up. So Dom, what do we have?
All right, so this one was sent in anonymous. It says, you talked about a rep loan. Can I refinance and pay off my boat with this type of loan?
All right. It's actually called a REC, R-E-C, REC loan. And it's a refinance product that we have that we're seeing a lot of call for that right now, because the refinances moving into this rate increase cycle where people primarily taking advantage of the historic low rates and simply refinancing their mortgage with the intent that they want a lower interest rate and possibly a lower payment, and even maybe shorten their term. We took a lot of people who were 3 or 4 years into a 30-year fixed rate and refinanced them into a ridiculously low 15-year mortgage. So that the goal of the refinances of the last year or so was primarily to reduce the interest paid or reduce the mortgage payment itself. What this REC, R-E-C loan is designed to do, and REC simply stands for reduce, eliminate, and consolidate. So we have to meet 2 out of 3 of those requirements for it to be classed as a REC refinance. And what it allows us to do is reduce your overall monthly expenses. So we're not just looking at the mortgage. So in this instance, your boat payment. So we're taking your overall monthly expenses, your credit cards, your boat, your car, whatever you want to pour into this refinance and get out from underneath those additional payments. We need to reduce your overall outflow. So we need to eliminate one of those other trade lines, if you will, one of those other consumer debts. So again, in this instance, your boat loan. So yes, this loan would work for that, because we're going to refinance the property and pay off the boat. And in theory, I'd have to look at the scenario, but we're going to reduce your outflow and we're eliminating that boat payment. And the other is consolidate. So we need to roll some additional trade lines into this single trade line in the form of a mortgage. So reduce, eliminate, and consolidate. If we can meet 2 out of 3 of those categories, then yes, you can use the REC loan to pay off almost anything, actually. I'll tell you an interesting story that a scenario that we had happen. This is a self-employed contractor, and the gentleman owns a bunch of equipment in his business, and some of it's in his personal name. And we all know that it's easier to get credit oftentimes in your personal name, especially if you have substantial assets and you're the guarantor, where sometimes it's more difficult to get the loan in the name of the business. So this gentleman had some equipment in both his business name and in his personal name. He had a load of equity, but he also had an amazingly low interest rate. So he was hesitant to approach it in the form of a traditional refinance because, mortgage to mortgage, it might not make sense. It might not make sense to, move a rate in the low 3s or mid 3s into something higher than that. But when we sat down and we looked at all of the other expenses that he has, and his desire was just that, to pay off a boat. But when we looked deeper, he had some other equipment. So we refinanced the house and we paid off both his personal and business debt. So he took the cash out of the mortgage to pay off the loans that were in the business name. And then we paid off one car, one piece of equipment, and a boat that were in his personal name. So we used this rec loan and we reduced his overall monthly outflow significantly. I mean, by more than $2,000. But this was a high net worth individual. He had a large mortgage to begin with, but he also had, I want to say we rolled four consumer trade lines into this mortgage. So the rec loan is a powerful tool. If you can meet the requirements for rec, there are some advantages in closing costs,